Hello everybody, we are back. This is Good Morning Transfers, and what a window it's already been, with over £1.7 billion spent, and there could well be a few more blockbuster moves to come as well as clubs try to get their August deals over the line. We've got loads to get through over the next hour with the former Premier League striker Jay Bothroyd and our reporter Danielle Khan, and with these two they're going to do it with a smile on their face. Of course they are. Right, coming up, the very latest on the future of Alexander Isak. He's not with his Newcastle teammates. He's in Spain training alone. We're live to St James's Park for an update. Benjamin Sesko is wanted by at least 2 Premier League teams. Will Manchester United win the battle to sign him? And could we see a new goalkeeper arrive at Old Trafford? Plus, we'll be discussing Arsenal's transfer business. Mikel Arteta has made 6 signings so far, and he's keen to make more. We'll assess their options in around half an hour's time. Going to start off with some breaking news for you, though. It concerns Rangers, because they've announced the signing of Mikey Moore from Tottenham Hotspur. It's a loan deal that is subject to international clearance, so it's unlikely he'll play tomorrow in the Premiership against Motherwell, which is live on Sky. This is what Moore has had to say. I'm excited to get going. As soon as I heard Rangers were interested and wanted me to come, it was a massive opportunity for me. And head coach Russell Martin has said, we are thrilled to bring Mikey on loan for this season. His profile as a brave, aggressive, attacking player is one that we were keen to add to the squad. So big news for Rangers. They've got the exciting talent that is Mikey Moore from Spurs on loan for the season. One deal done. There are also a few stories that broke late last night that our viewers may have missed. So Dan's going to run you through them.
Matt, thank you very much. I mean, it has been such an eventful last 24 hours in the transfer window. And the first one to tell you about is a potential return for a former Premier League midfielder, and that is João Palhinha. Our colleagues in Sky Germany are reporting Tottenham are in advanced talks with Bayern Munich over the loan signing of João Palhinha, the former Fulham midfielder, of course. And we understand the deal includes an option to buy as well. West Ham, they've also made it a formal approach for Leicester goalkeeper Mads Hermansen. An impressive season at Leicester last season. Looks like he could be on the move this summer as well. Southampton, they've also rejected an offer from Everton for midfielder Tyler Dibling. It's understood the offer was around £27 million, but Southampton would consider something more around the £40 million mark. Wrexham, also busy this summer, of course. We all know the funds they have with their superstar ownership group. They are close to signing. Sheffield United's tried to Kiefer Moore, a fee in the region of £2 million.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what kind of business Wrexham do this summer. We've got loads more on those stories on the website and app, by the way. But we're going to get started with Manchester United, because yesterday we reported that the club are interested in the Paris Saint-Germain goalkeeper, Gianluigi Donnarumma. This is big news, isn't it? Dan, just tee this up for us. How far down the line are we with a potential deal here?
Yeah, look, I think it's important to say at first that, it's very tentative. United are interested in Donnarumma. And when you look at their goalkeeping situation at the moment, Andre Onana, he is on tour with Manchester United at the moment, but he's out with a hamstring injury. United have had previous interest in Donnarumma in 2017 when he was at AC Milan. He then renewed his contract then. But really at this stage, it's just interest. And Donnarumma is entering the final 12 months of his contract at PSG. We know he's a Euros winner, of course, beating England a few summers ago. And of course, the Champions League winner now with that PSG team we saw at the end of last season. So we'll have to wait and see where United's interest goes, if that turns into a formal bid. But, Jay, I'd ask you, is that where they need to strengthen right away?
Definitely. I think most teams, if they could sign Donnarumma, there's going to be an upgrade on their keeper. He's one of the best in the world. I'd argue probably top 3 in the world. Obviously, he won the Champions League last year. He's a fantastic goalkeeper. He's a different kind of goalkeeper to Onana. Of course, we see Onana, even though he had an indifferent season last year, there were some very good moments, but then there was a lot of mistakes, and obviously with them mistakes, it's highlighted. You remember those mistakes. So I can understand why Man United would be looking at Donnarumma. Like I said, he's got a year left on his contract. I mean, is this a situation where his agent's trying to get more money out of PSG? Is it a situation where he might just wait until the January transfer window, because then he can speak to foreign clubs and then maybe leave at the end of the season on a free? We don't know, but there's one thing for sure, he's a fantastic keeper.
Yeah. You can see there, Onana, 8 errors leading to goals. That's the most of any goalkeeper in the Premier League last season. I mean, you mentioned it there, are different types of goalkeepers, aren't they? Donnarumma, we saw pull off some amazing saves in the Champions League, particularly against Arsenal. But is he as good with the ball at his feet as someone like Onana?
I wouldn't say he's as good with his feet as Onana, but ultimately you want your keeper to make saves. And if you can have a great goalkeeper who's decent with his feet, I personally would take that over someone that's very good with their feet that don't make a lot of saves and makes more mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that you have to remember, yes, Onana did have a few mistakes last season, but he also did have a few man-of-the-match performances as well. I mean, I remember one in particular against Brentford. You know, you made a fantastic double save, among many others, that game. And he also won goal save of the month a few occasions last season as well. So, yes, he had some mistakes in him. But I think Manchester United as a whole, as you know, Jay, when a squad themselves aren't feeling all that confident, maybe does a goalkeeper, a forward, maybe need a bit more empathy, even though those positions get so much more attention.
I mean, yes, but I think the way keepers are judged, especially at the biggest clubs in the world, the top clubs, is they're not going to have many shots to save. You know, you look at like Alisson, you look at Edison, you know, you look at them kind of keepers in the Premier League, they might have 2 shots to save in the 90th minute. And you have to make them. And with Onana, yes, he's had great games. Yes, he's made some fantastic saves. But them mistakes have cost Man United games. And ultimately, I think that's where it's more important to have a goalkeeper that's going to make them big saves and limit those mistakes than have someone that's great with their feet, that's going to play out, hit diagonal balls. That's great, but ultimately is going to lose games for Man United. And that's what he did last year.
All right, I want to move it on to the other end of the pitch now as well, because you can look at Man United and say, well, they've got a few gaps where they could fill and they could strengthen. They are interested in a striker, right? They've been linked with Ollie Watkins, Nicholas Jackson, but it seems, Benjamin, we call him Sesko?
Hey, we have Tim Vickery there later
like
on,
Sean
maybe.
Connery
He's great at pronunciations.
Sesko, I think that's how you pronounce it.
I won't be pronouncing it like that.
It sounds like you've had a few when you say it that way. He's the front runner now. So where are we with this at the moment?
So Manchester United, we know, have really struggled to score goals in the last 12 months, something Ruben Amorim has highlighted many a time. And as we understand it, Manchester United have held initial talks with RB Leipzig over Benjamin Sesko. 13 goals in the Bundesliga last season. And we were just talking about earlier, Jay, that he's got a variety of goals, didn't he? And that is something I think Ruben Amorim wants in his team, not just the lack of goals, but someone who can work in his system. And I mean, what do you think, Jay, in terms of Sesko and what he could add to the Premier League?
Yeah, no, I think he's a really good player. Obviously, he's a young player as well. When I look at his all-round game, he, to me, is exactly what Man United need. They need someone that is good in the box, that's a good finisher. He's very cute as well. He makes really good runs. You know, he goes to feet and then checks in behind and vice versa. He scores all different goals. He's a very strong player. But the way Man United will play with the 2 number 10s, they need a focal point. And even though Højlund he's been good in games. You've seen he went for a season. In the part of the season last year where he scored a few goals and he was on a bit of a run. But ultimately, I feel like Sesko could be that upgrade where, especially when they're putting balls on the box from wide areas, he's that kind of fox in the box, but then he's got that imagination as well to get involved in the game a bit more than Højlund does.
So where would that leave Højlund then? If Sesko comes in, I know he said he wants to fight for his place, but can you see them having both of them there?
Yeah, definitely. Again, Højlund is young. He's still learning, especially, you know, in the Premier League, and that's not to say, you know, Sesko, he needs to get used to the Premier League as well. But the fact that he said that he wants to stay and fight for his place is good. That's him showing a good attitude. But again, he has to be patient, because if Man United go and sign Sesko, then he's going to start.
Well, one thing I would say is, there will be inevitable comparisons between Sesko and Rasmus Højlund. But when Manchester United signed Rasmus Højlund, for a lot of money, has to be said, 2 summers ago, Rasmus Højlund was going to a very different Manchester United team. When he made his Premier League debut against Brighton, the other attacking options was an injury-ravaged Anthony Martial. Marcus Rashford didn't know his best position in that team. You had Alejandro Garnacho, who's just 19 years old as well, and Ahmad, who was quite young in that team as well. If Sesko does join Manchester United, Højlund as well coming back into this team this season, you're backed up now by Brian Mbeumo, Matheus Cunha, and Bruno Fernandes may be playing in a deeper position. So the situation both of these strikers would be playing in is completely different.
Now, and also when they played Bournemouth the other day, didn't they? And Areola was talking, and he said they're going to be a proper team this year, and they played some really good football, scored goals obviously, which is important. And even though Bournemouth have lost players, they're no pushover. They're still a good side, still got a very good manager. So it was good to see that. I think it's going to be a great Premier League this year. I can't wait for it, honestly.
So many good signings. You said it, Sesko. There you go.
Yeah,
Sesko,
exactly.
get on board.
Sesko, I don't know about that.
Right, one of the other huge stories dominating the headlines is, of course, Alexander Isak. His future at Newcastle is in the balance after he was excluded from the majority of Newcastle's pre-season tour. Only a month ago, Isak was pictured taking full part of Newcastle's Alpine training camp in Austria. So there was surprise when Eddie Howe announced that he wouldn't feature against Celtic.
Alex was with us all the way through Austria, but today, with all the speculation and things that are going on, I decided to send him home.
The club then jetted out to Singapore for the next leg of their pre-season. However, with speculation starting to build over the Swedes' future, Howe decided to leave Isak back on the toon.
I think I said against Celtic after the game, I certainly hope he stays. And I said I was confident that he'd stay. I don't see anything that's going to change that opinion of mine at the moment, but it's football and who knows what the future may bring.
Yeah, we want to keep our best players, I think is my point. So what I want to say to you is that I don't know what this club is seeing in that way, but for us, he's not here because he's in treatment in Newcastle.
After Singapore, it was on to South Korea for Howe and the rest of his team, but Isak still nowhere to be seen. Could the Newcastle stance finally be softening with a month to go this window?
I'd love to believe all possibilities are still available. So we've received no formal offer from any football club for him. So my wish has always been that he stays and we see him again play next year, but that's not in my full control.
Right, let's get more on this right now because Keith Downey is live at St James's Park to speak to us. He can give us the latest on where things stand. Morning, Keith. Yesterday, you broke the news that Isak is training alone at his former club, Real Sociedad. Is he still there, and how long is he planning to stay there?
How long is a piece of string, Matt, I think is the best way to answer that question. Yeah, I understand he is still in San Sebastian training alone. Now remember, if he was here in Newcastle, he would have been training alone as well. And I think it's important to point out, it wasn't that he was excluded from Newcastle's pre-season tour. He took that decision himself to stay behind. The club at the time said it was because he has a minor thigh injury, but really it's because he wants to explore a move away from the club, a story we told you about last week, amidst that informal approach from Liverpool just over a week ago. So look, without doubt, Alexander Isak's head has been turned. He's been affected by the interest from Liverpool, the speculation. He, I think, feels it's time for a new challenge, which is why he wants to explore a move elsewhere. But yes, he's taken it upon himself to travel out to the Basque region to train on his own at Real Sociedad's training camp. Now again, important to stress that he's not training with Real Sociedad. They're away on their own pre-season preparations. It's an empty training ground, but he's out there training with his own team. His team are based out there in Spain, and he often goes there to recover if he has an injury or he needs a little bit of physio treatment, whatever. The club are comfortable with that relationship he has with his own team. how much they knew about him travelling out to the Basque region just over a week ago when they flew out to South Korea on their pre-season tour. I'm not too sure. It's not gone down well with the Newcastle United supporters who think he should be back here preparing, whether there's any backroom staff to work with or not. Remember, they're all out in South Korea, so there's an empty training ground here at Newcastle. The optics of it aren't good. However, Newcastle are back on Monday from South Korea, and I would be amazed if Alexander Isak is not there having a one-to-one chat with Eddie Howe. I don't think he can essentially go on strike. I think he will report back on Monday, and then I think the club and the player himself will take it from there.
Yeah, it does seem we've got a bit of a stalemate though right now. Can you see this dragging out for even longer?
Yeah, I think the reason for the stalemate is due to the geography involved. As I touched on there, Newcastle are out in South Korea. They had a few days in Singapore. They're a long, long way away from Newcastle. They're a long, long way away from San Sebastian, where Isak is right now. So there is that vacuum, if you like. There's that void between the two. And I think Eddie Howe will want to get back on Monday. He'll want Isak to come back, and he'll want to sit down face to face and find out where Isak's head is at. Maybe the sort of 10 days or so break away for Isak away from the club might help him. Might he be looking at some of the reaction in social media and think, do you know what, I need to knuckle down here? Or will he double down and make it clear that he wants to look at other options? But look, until Liverpool or any other club come to Newcastle and make an offer for Alexander Isak, he remains a Newcastle United player, and Newcastle are looking for an eye-watering sum of money for Isak to go. It would be a Premier League record £150 million sale if he were to go. So I feel, looking at it at the moment, things may move. We might get a bit more clarity on it one way or the other next week, because everyone's going to be there and in the same room. At the moment, of course, Newcastle are in South Korea and he's in Spain. So I think next week is crucial for this situation. I don't see it dragging on until the end of the transfer window with the sums of money we're talking about. I mentioned it there, £150 million, huge wages. It's not the sort of deal, I don't think, that's going to go through on deadline day or even the day before deadline day. I think Newcastle and the player himself will want it sorted out one way or the other before them. But until Liverpool make a formal approach and put their money on the table, Alexander Isak is a Newcastle United player. And I have to say, it's going to be fascinating next week to see what happens once they all come back together again.
Yeah, it really is. And we're, of course, going to be on top of all of it on Good Morning Transfers and Transfer Talk. What about incomings at Newcastle? We've seen Aaron Ramsdale in the area. Will we be getting an announcement on him soon?
Yeah, Matt, it's been a frustrating window for Newcastle. They haven't added significantly for the last three. This was the window where they were supposed to strengthen. They were looking for a goalkeeper, a central defender, a right winger, a striker, potentially even another midfielder, because they've lost Sean Longstaff to Leeds. So far, they've only brought in Anthony Elanga. But you're right, Aaron Ramsdale is here in the northeast. He arrived on Friday. Arrived on Wednesday night for his medical. He had that medical yesterday. It's complete now, and we're waiting for confirmation from Newcastle that Aaron Ramsdale is a goalkeeper for this coming season, because it's a loan deal, with Newcastle having an option next summer to make that permanent. So look, they'll be pleased they've got a player in. Eddie Howe will be pleased he's got a player in that he knows very well. He was manager of him at Bournemouth. Of course, he signed him for Bournemouth, and he's a good character, isn't he? He's an England international, and he will battle Nick Pope for the gloves next season. I expect Nick Pope to start the season as number one, Ramsdale as two, and it'll be up to Ramsdale to try and win the gloves off his England counterpart. But yeah, they'll be pleased they've got a player in. Disappointed it's not James Trafford, because that was the one they were hanging their hat on. He, of course, went to Manchester City. Newcastle turned their attentions to Ramsdale. And once that one's done, they now need to bring in at least one striker. If Isak goes, they'll need to bring in two, and they need to bring in a central defender, and I think probably another midfielder as well. So look, I'm expecting Newcastle to be busy over the next month. They've been busy over the last 6 weeks or so without actually doing much. There's been a lot to talk about, a lot of speculation, a lot of missed opportunities. They really need to start landing some players now. So they'll be pleased they've got Ramsdale in to join Anthony Elanga, but it's going to be a busy few weeks up here in the northeast as Newcastle try and get their squad ready for the Champions League this season.
Yeah, busy few weeks for you, my friend. Thank you, Keith. Right, we've got some more breaking transfer news to bring you because Leicester City have accepted a bid worth £2 million from Wrexham for defender Connor Cody. He's due in Wales today for a medical and to discuss personal terms. Let's get back to our Isak chat, though. I just want to get the players' perspective from you, Jay, and also whether you think it's going to happen. I mean, what's going through his head right now? To go back to his old club and train there by himself, it's not a great look, is it? And what do you think is going to be the end result of all this? Do you think he will get the move he wants?
Well, first of all, I said it at the end of last season. He already had his head turned. I mean, that's just the nature of the game now. Obviously, I can't confirm that, but knowing the way football goes, when you've been that successful, his agent will be doing his job, which is speaking to other teams to see if they're going to put in that, if their interest. Now, he won the League Cup, which was great with Newcastle. He had a few great seasons. He's arguably the best number 9 in the world. And inevitably, the best players in the world want to play at the biggest clubs in the world and challenging. And when you look at Liverpool, who has been reported want to sign him, they have made some unbelievable signings this year, and they are legitimate title contenders straight away again, and Champions League contenders straight away. I do think that he was very professional last year, but then I think that the way
is a bit strange.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Eddie Howe didn't handle this the best way, which is, first of all, we said there's an injury. Then it was his head's not right. And then they've obviously gone away. Then there was a transfer request. That came because obviously he's upset with the way the situation was handled. I think Eddie Howe should have just kept him with the squad. It probably could have maybe enticed him to stay a bit more, but now I feel like the transfer is going to happen. From when you give in a transfer request, you've pushed the move. I feel like it will happen now.
I just want to touch on if he does make it to Liverpool, what their potential strongest 11 could look like. As you mentioned, the kind of window that they've had. And if Alexander Isak arrives, you're going to end up, Dan, having Isak and Salah, 2 top scorers in the Premier League, playing together. Florian Wirtz, who they've just broken the bank.
That's a new Galacticos.
Well, basically, yeah. I mean, when you look at that squad, I mean, it's frightening.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've got to be the heavy favourites, haven't they, to win the Premier League, if you look at that squad?
Absolutely. And I think,
100%.
first of all, you have to give Arne Slot so much credit and his Liverpool side to achieve what they did last season without making any significant signings, because that has allowed, as well as their sales, that spree. And you look at that front three, for example, Mohamed Salah, Alexander Isak, to the best goal scorers last season in one team, with Hugo Ekitike, who has still so much to improve in his game. You have 3 forwards there, completely different parts of their careers, you would say, probably, which, if you're Slot, you must be incredibly, as well as the fan base, incredibly excited.
But Dan, also, like you said there, one thing I love about Liverpool's business is they've signed starters.
Yeah.
Right? Most teams will sign, players that can fit into the squad.
Yeah.
Players that are going to come and improve, the depth and whatnot. Arsenal's done that. Man City's done that to a point. But you look at that Liverpool team, they have legitimately gone and signed starters. Kirk has had unbelievable seasons. He's one of the best left backs out there now. Frimpong, he had a great season in Germany, loads of assists. And then obviously Isak, Ekitike, again, like top players. Like they've gone in there and made their starting 11 stronger. So, they won the league last year. They've made their starting 11 even stronger, which, gives you all that depth as well for the Champions League, for all competitions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's amazing. Yeah. They've got an amazing team.
They have. They say the Galacticos. We'll have to come up with another word for them, won't we? Right, we've got loads more still to come on Good Morning Transfers. We've got some new developments on Tottenham's pursuit of João Paulinho. Stay with us. Breaking news all over the place this morning. Tottenham have agreed a deal with Bayern Munich for the loan signing of João Palhinha. Spurs will also have the option to buy the midfielder for £27 million. Initially, this was expected to be just a straight loan, but it's believed that Bayern inserted the purchase option in fresh talks late yesterday. A loan deal will give Spurs flexibility to spend funds elsewhere this summer. So João Palhinha looks like he's on his way back to the Premier League. Of course, he was here before with Fulham and he made a big impact there as well, didn't he, Jay? This seems like a good signing for Spurs.
I really like it. And it's exactly what they need. They need that experience. You know, he's very good at, interceptions, making tackles. He's very disciplined. And I feel like the way Thomas Frank will have his team playing, which is attacking football, they've got some really good attacking options. You need that kind of pivot in front of the back four where he can get hold of the ball and start distributing it like that quarterback, but then also he has that discipline to stay back, recognise when he can get forward, but when he needs to be there just to keep it solid. So I think it's a great signing. It's exactly what Tottenham need, and even then Tottenham, I think defensively they're very good, and then you add him to it. I think it's a great signing.
I think when you look at Thomas Frank's Brentford teams in midfield, there was always that physical attribute in that midfield, Norgard, for example. And I think João Palhinha really adds that to that Spurs midfield. I think for Palhinha himself, first of all, I think the option for Spurs of 27 million is fantastic when you consider Bayern Munich bought him for just over £40 million in that region. But for Palhinha himself, he did have a muscle injury last year, so that limited him to only a handful or 13 or so Bundesliga appearances. So he wasn't really able to make a stamp on that Bayern Munich team. So you kind of have a player there who needs to regain some confidence there as well. So it feels like a great kind of deal for both parties, really. A player that can regain some confidence in himself, but also Tottenham with a completely different midfielder.
Does he come straight into the starting lineup, Palhinha, right? He comes in as your holding midfielder.
I would say so. We look at Tottenham last year, and yes, they didn't have a great season at all, even though they won something. But you look at Sarr and Basuma, as much as they are good players, especially, Sarr's very energetic, box to box.
Screamer the other day, didn't he, against Arsenal?
Let's not talk about that. But Basuma, again, very good on the ball, composed. But they were rash at times, giving away needless penalties, making needless fouls. I feel like when you look at Palhinha, he's more disciplined, he's more intelligent, he manoeuvres himself away around the pitch and makes a good decision, 8-9 times out of 10. So again, great signing.
Does he give them a bit of bite as well? He's quite a niggly guy.
He's big as well, He's big. He's big.
He can score headers from corners.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think this is what Tottenham need also when you consider they're, of course, playing Champions League football next season. So this is a player, I think, that elevates that midfield and offers Thomas Frank something completely different in midfield.
100% done.
Right, reminder of the breaking transfer news. Tottenham have agreed a deal to sign Bayern Munich's João Palhinha, and it also includes an option to buy for £27 million. We've got loads still to come. We'll be discussing Chelsea's transfer business. 7 players in so far. And there could be a new defender on the way too. Stay tuned. Now for our transfer update. If you're just joining us, Tottenham Hotspur have agreed a loan move to sign Bayern Munich's João Palhinha with a £27 million option to buy included. Manchester United are interested in the Paris Saint-Germain goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma. He's entered the final year of his contract. West Ham have made a formal approach to Leicester for the goalkeeper Mads Hermansen. Southampton have rejected an offer from Everton for midfielder Tyler Dibbling. We understand the offer was around £27 million. Brentford are determined to keep Johan Wissa amid interest from Newcastle. The player wants to go, but Brentford don't want to sell him after they sold Bryan Mbeumo to Manchester United for £71 million. Juventus are interested in the Brighton midfielder Matt O'Reilly. There have, though, been no offers at this stage. Wolves and Arsene Alkmaar have agreed a deal worth £12.1 million for left-back David Moller-Wolf. He is due to travel to England to undergo a medical and finalise the paperwork on his move this weekend. Manchester City are considering a potential loan move to Girona for the centre-back Vitor Reis. Multiple other clubs have also inquired about taking the 19-year-old on loan. And Wrexham, they've agreed a deal for £2 million to sign the Leicester City centre-back Connor Cody. The defender is due in Wales today for a medical and to finalise the paperwork on his contract. Don't forget, you can keep across all the latest information as it happens on our dedicated Transfer Centre blog. All you have to do is scan that QR code on your screen there and it'll take you to the blog. Right, we're going to talk Chelsea now because they've been busy again. Over £200 million spent, but they've also sold well, as they often do, Chelsea, bringing in 135 million. So the net spend's not that big at the moment. Might be about to get a little bit bigger, though. What's the latest on the defender, Jarell Hato?
This deal, Matt, feels like it's edging ever closer to completion. We reported a few days ago that the deal for Hato was agreed with Ajax, a deal for an initial fee of £35.5 million for the 19-year-old. And of course, Hato, at 19 years old, has developed so much at Ajax. He wore the captain's armband at just 17 years old, and he really fits Chelsea's profile of the type of signings they have tried to get in the last 12 months or so, really rebuilding this Chelsea side. And really, the good thing about Hato is also his versatility. He can also play left-back as well as centre-back, and I think the idea would be to give a bit more time off maybe to Marc Cucurella, who played a lot of games last year. But it's interesting, Matt, I've been asking a few sources in the Netherlands about Hato and just what he's like, and he was described to me as a very calm personality, but also very interesting. He works individually with former Chelsea defender Winston Bogarde individually on his game, who only made a handful of appearances for Chelsea. You can tell me the story in a minute.
That's not a good thing.
I hope you're not watching, mate.
But I think what's interesting is Hato sees himself as a centre-back, of course. He's very good on the ball. I saw him a few years ago against Aston Villa in the Conference League, and he talked about how he wanted to play in the Premier League one day. Virgil van Dijk is his idol, of course, being Dutch. But maybe we might see a transition into a left-back, a little bit like Jurrien Timber, gone to Arsenal and found actually physicality-wise and maybe his stature, actually a full-back position may be better suited. He has spoken to Timber quite a lot, of course, about that positional change. Tell me a bit more about Bogarde.
I can't do that. I can't do that. But obviously, there was some questionable things back in the day when he was, he obviously. You know what? It's not factual, but apparently, He didn't have a great time at Chelsea. They said they don't want him, and he was like, "I don't care, just pay me my money."
Yeah,
and then,
he was
that was kind of exactly. He didn't play again.
Let's move on from Winston.
Exactly. Yeah.
Before we upset him too much. In general, how good a window have Chelsea had?
I think they've had a good window. I like the signing of Delap, Gittins. I think is a very good signing as well. But this transfer, I really, really like because. Again, he has that versatility. He can play left back, he can play centre back. He has the same kind of build as Colwill. Colwill's had a lot of injuries throughout his throughout his early career. Again, left-footed player, so he's comfortable when open up the body. And I think that's always good to have that balance in your two strikers. But when you look at their window as a whole, I really like what Chelsea's doing. Again, you said, Dan, it fits their profile, the signing. And, you know, they're going to go out there and try and win 4 competitions. So they need a strong squad. And he's another player that I think, again, he will come into that starting team. At some point, he will get in there and stay in there. That's how good he is.
I also think, you know, when we talk about Chelsea's strategy, we spoke 12 months ago on these shows, Matt, especially about how this is such a unique strategy. I mean, it's kind of unprecedented in football. And I don't think we should ever forget that no club the size of Chelsea have gone with a strategy like this, where you invest so much money in young players, long-term long-term contracts, absolutely, but just for a pure number of players to bring in. And we're seeing the fruits of that a little bit. We saw that at the end of last season. We saw that in the Club World Cup. And I think Liam Delap, for example, £30 million with that clause.
A steal.
Fantastic signing.
Do you know what? I said, I don't know what you think, Dan, but Delap has a bit of Shearer about him, a younger Shearer, where he's strong, you can't push him off the ball, he scores different types of goals, he's got a real appetite, he's got a bit of arrogance on the pitch. I really like Delap as a signing. I think a lot of teams would have looked at him, I mean, again, Arsenal fan, but I would have liked to see him at Arsenal, because I think he adds a lot to a squad. He can play on the left, he plays on the right, he can play up front, number 10. He's a very good young player. I'm looking forward to seeing him this year.
It has kind of been so far a window of the strikers, hasn't it? I mean, you've been talking up Delap there, but you haven't picked him in your 3 strikers to have a look out for. Well, actually, to be fair, no, we've kind of picked them with you, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've just gone with the 3 behind me. So Gyökeres, João Pedro, and Ugo Ekitike. We're going to ask you, Jay, which of those 3 do you think is going to have the biggest impact and why?
Well, I hope it's Gyökeres. I hope it's Gyökeres. But
who do you think?
Objectively, I think it will be João Pedro, because Chelsea create a lot of chances, and Jackson last year, and even the year before, as much as he scored goals, some very good goals, he missed a lot of chances as well. And I feel like João Pedro, he's a very good player, because I wouldn't say he's a typical number 9. He gets involved in the play. You see him at Brighton. He gets involved in the play. He drifts, but then he gets back in the box. And when he's in the box, he's calm on the ball. He's not like slashing at things. You see like a real confidence as when he's in around there. I can score my left foot. I can score my right foot. If I need to take a touch, I'll take a touch. His awareness of where he is away from defenders, whether it's taking that first touch past the defender and then shooting quickly, he has that in abundance, and I think he will be very important for Chelsea. And if he can score the goals and get to, I always say, if you're a team and you have a player that is scoring 20 Premier League goals in a year, you're going to have a chance of winning the title.
Gyökeres has scored the most goals out of those 3, but is he the one who's making the biggest step up? Is there the sort of biggest question mark over him?
Yeah. As much as, I'm really happy to see that we have signed a number 9. But there are questions about Gyökeres, because, a lot of his goals last season were against like bottom half teams. Obviously, there was a lot of penalties as well. I think the way he played at Sporting is going to be different to the way at Arsenal. He's not going to be able to be running kind of, I wouldn't say channels, but down the sides of, in between fullbacks and centre halves, because a lot of teams will just sit off against Arsenal and, kind of say break us down. So he's going to have to evolve his game. He's going to be having to come off into areas and be cute, little 1-2s. His awareness needs to be good. And then when crosses go in the box, he needs to be there to score headers, get them ugly goals. He didn't score a header last year. So that will be the questionable things. But there's no doubt, he's a physical specimen. He's strong, he's fast. And when the balls do get played over the top, he's powerful, and he has scored some unbelievable goals as well.
You mentioned the difference in styles as a forward. I mean, like you said there, at Arsenal, it will be different. Sporting Lisbon, you often play teams, they play in a different style. They'll often play against teams who sit back in a deep block. So as a forward, how do you adapt to that? And how do you think he'll find the Premier League?
That's a very good question. I think he's going to find the Premier League very hard. I mean, there's no disrespect to the Portuguese league, but I think by Opta, the Championship is rated higher than the Portuguese league. And, he done all right at Coventry, scored some important goals. But ultimately, when you go and play in the Premier League, you got playing against top-class defenders, every single week pretty much. They're all fast. They're all strong. So, you know, that kind of physical battle that you might have the edge over in the Portuguese league, you don't have that in the Premier League. So then what do? You have to use your football IQ. You have to be cute around the box. The way teams will play, like I said before, against Arsenal, a lot of teams will sit off. So he has to come in areas, you know, little cute 1-2s. The movement needs to be a lot more sharper to get away from these defenders.
Interesting, this isn't it? So according to what you're talking about there, you know, the average team power rating,
that says it all.
In Europe, yeah,
that says
championship.
Exactly, because when I look at, you know, when you see players around the world that are doing well, you need to look at the level of competition as well. It's not just scoring goals. Yes, the hardest thing to do is score goals, but then you need to look at who you're playing against. That would be my only question against Gyökeres, but he's a great signing. He needs to come and hit the ground running. I don't want to hear no talk from Arteta or anyone saying, let's give him time, let's bed him in. He's 27 years old. 27-year-old, so these are peak years, everyone needs to see him hit the ground running and get them 20 Premier League goals.
Time will tell. We have plenty on the way. We'll be getting Jay's top 5 signings of the window so far, and we'll assess the business that Sunderland have done. They have spent big as they attempt to stay in the Premier League. Stay with us. Arsenal spent big, £72 million in fact, on Nicolas Pepe from Lille. The fee was so big, it was actually a club record. But Arsenal didn't really get the return on the investment that they wanted in the winger. 24 goals and 15 assists in 91 games, and he left the Emirates back in 2023. In fact, I didn't realise he scored so many goals, to be honest. I didn't think he scored as many. That's not too bad, actually. No, the stats don't look that bad. Jay Bothroyd's with us alongside Dan Khan, and we've asked Jay to pick out his top 5 signings of the window so far, and there are loads of choice. So who'd you go with?
Well, we're going to see right now. But obviously, Florian Wirtz, I think he's a fantastic young player. I mean, he had a great Euros. I was there and I watched him, closely. Right-footed, left-footed, he scores all types of goals. He's got that acceleration. He's a full package, but now he has to come and do it on the big stage, and I absolutely think he will. And then obviously we got Gyökeres, like I mentioned before, at number 2. Again, Pedro at number 3. They're big signings. They need to hit the ground running and score their goals. But I think Mbeumo, I think he's very important for Man United. At Brentford, he was playing in a wider role where he was, isolated in them 1v1 situations. But the way Man United will play, he's playing more like a number 10. So as much as I think he'll drift out to them wide areas still and come inside, he's going to do more as a central player. He needs to get them assists and get them goals. And then we've got Ekitike. I think he's a great signing. He's a good young player.
Do you think he will start on the left, or is he going to be up front and Isak on the left? If Isak goes,
I think if Isak goes there, then I think it will be a situation where Slot will say, listen, you can rotate, but someone needs to be on this left side in the defensive when we defend. But I think Isak will probably play more on the left and then Ekitike up front, because we see Isak play on the left sometimes for Newcastle where he was very effective. But I really like Ekitike. I think he's got all the attributes. He's 6'3", he's got pace, strength, even though he looks a bit fragile. But he can make his own goals as well. And I think at the highest level, you need to have that ability where when you're not getting service, you can create goals, step overs, go past defenders, score goals yourself.
It feels like there's so much potential in 2 of those with Wirtz and Ekitike. Liverpool aren't just signing ready-made stars, which they are in their respective leagues. But I think with Wirtz, you think, how good can he still become? Ekitike, when he develops even further. I mean, I want to ask you, not to put you on the spot, out of those 5 though, who will make the biggest impact at their club, do you think? I like him.
You know what? It's hard. That's a hard question. But again,
we need to move on.
I think Mbeumo. I think Mbeumo has to as well.
It's not just about the big 6. They've been very active, haven't they, so far in the window? But Sunderland have also spent big, haven't they? They spent over £100 million. What do you make of the business they've done? Yeah,
look, if you would have asked me a few days ago, I would have said it's very exciting being a Sunderland fan, spending over £100 million. But when you looked at a lot of the signings, they didn't have a lot of Premier League experience until they signed Granit Xhaka. Yeah. And now you're thinking, actually, someone who's seasoned might just be a huge, huge addition for Sunderland.
One-word answer from both of you. Which club needs to spend the most?
Needs to spend the most? I don't know. To be honest, I don't know the answer to that one.
Brentford?
I think West Ham.
West Ham?
West Ham, okay. Ageing squad.
You've had time to think now, Jay. Do you want to chuck one in there?
Everton.
Good shout. David Moyes wants some signings, doesn't he? Thank you very much, guys. That's our first show done and dusted. Good Morning Transfers, though, does return on Monday at 9 a.m. We'll be on every weekday. We are back today, though, midday. Dan and I will be joined by the South American football expert, the always entertaining Tim Vickery. Make sure you tune in for that. And the transfer show is back at 5 and 7 p.m. tonight for a comprehensive roundup of all of the day's transfer news. My thanks to Dan and Jay. Good energy today. Stay with us right here on Sky Sports News. Plenty on the way, including the latest transfer news.